right, good morning everybody. This is Maggie Reese.
And I'm John McManamy.
And we're back in the shack.
Yeah, back in the shack. This is the place to be, folks.
This is definitely the place to be.
So glad you can join us.
Yeah, and hopefully your day's just like a little bit better. I know mornings are always rough, and we have to do different things to get going. And today we're going to tackle a topic that's not the greatest one, but it needs to be addressed, and that's medication.
Medication, and those are the first questions people ask after they get diagnosed.
Yeah, I in all my talks that I've done, I always have the parents, and I'm sure you've had this too, that are like, well, what medication are you on? Because that must be what's working. You know, everyone wants that
and I don't reveal.
wonder drug.
Right.
And there isn't a wonder drug. That's the problem. Like,
no.
I wish there was that one thing that you take, and then we're like, right?
Right. And this is where people compare our illness to diabetes, and that's such a bad comparison because diabetes, they've got that magic thing called insulin. They take,
and it works.
It works, and we have these drugs that work in certain situations but not in others, and there's usually a long hard struggle. Our brains are different, our biochemistry is different. What works for me is not necessarily going to work for you, and often it's a long, hard, and arduous struggle. I mean, I wish I could be more hopeful about it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it took me, at 19, it took, almost a year, I think, of going through different meds before they figured out the one for me at Stanford. But before that, it was just one thing after another. And before I even had a manic episode, I was on antidepressants because this is
right.
a common thing that happens, right? Where I was diagnosed depression.
They hand out antidepressants like candy.
So here I am taking Zoloft, and
to a bipolar person, antidepressants may as well be crack cocaine.
Totally, and that is exactly what happened to me within a couple weeks.
It can
on the
flip
Zoloft.
you into mania or
and
psychosis.
I just kept going. Yeah.
And even if it doesn't flip you, it may make you agitated. You may feel momentarily better, and then the doctor interprets that as a sign of success, and then when the med starts making you feel agitated, they'll say, well, we'll just switch it to a different antidepressant, and then maybe 9 years later they say, wow, you may have bipolar. Right. Oh, thank you very much.
For all these messes that I'm in now, right?
Yeah, so that's what happened to me the first time. They diagnosed me with depression, and it flipped me into mania. Then it became a no-brainer call. I have bipolar. Now, fortunately, the doctor gave me a very low-dose med.
Wow.
And I didn't realize how low a dose I was on until I went to support groups, and I found out what they were taking, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I don't have bipolar.
Right.
No,
right.
I was just I hit the lottery with this doctor. It was low-dose med. I pretty much stayed on the low-dose med for the longest time.
That's so awesome, where I was the opposite.
Well, you had an extreme mania situation.
Yeah, that's true.
The doctor only saw me depressed. That's how we usually come into our doctors.
Right.
Depression's the more prevalent form of the illness. Our episodes tend to last longer in depression. I think with bipolar 1, bipolar 1 is noted for mania, but even in bipolar 1, we're depressed 3 times more than we're manic. And with bipolar 2, we're depressed a lot of the time. So the doctors nobody ever comes into the doctor saying, I feel great, make me feel my despair and existential self. Nobody ever says that to the doctor. So they see us depressed, they assume we're suffering from clinical depressions. They don't have time to ask us the right questions to see, is this depression tracking differently than a clinical, what they call a unipolar depression.
Right.
So they're not getting the subtle signals. Now, a sensible question to ask, have you been depressed before? Or, were you in school doing well and then your grades dropped? Then they might pick up signs that we got depressions that are recurring. So if depressions are recurring, they're bouncing back. Maybe they're only bouncing back to normal, but it's a sign that we're cycling.
Right, right.
And bipolar is a cycling illness. We have to understand that. So even if we're cycling up just to normal,
It's going to keep doing it.
we're going up and down.
Yeah, and it will continue to do that.
So if the doctor, and when we're depressed, okay,
hmm
we never remember when we were feeling good.
Oh, that's so true.
That's often why you need a loved one or a friend or something to come into the psychiatrist with you, because that person is going to say, well, tell them about the time you stripped naked and jumped into the swimming pool in front of your church crowd.
Right, right.
Because honestly, this really happens in our brains. Our brains trick us into forgetting all of that stuff.
I know, it's the weirdest thing. Like when you are down, you cannot remember what it was like to feel good. Or a happy place.
I have more words for depression than an Eskimo does for snow. So So when I came into my psychiatrist, in the state of crisis, it was like, yeah, I could remember every depression. It was like, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing, a Mount Everest death zone depression where no oxygen is getting to me, and I'm about to contemplate something seriously,
Yeah, the devastating, where I'm done.
This is, and then there's just other milder forms, but I could not remember when I felt good or was just
Or in a happy place.
in a happy place. So
And you don't remember your success or anything that you've ever done.
So the doctors will usually diagnose you with depression and give you the antidepressant, and that's how they eventually find we've failed on our antidepressants.
Yes, and then that's when it goes to the other end of the spectrum.
And now they want to give us all these meds that will slow down our brain. And if you're in a crisis, this can be a good thing. If you're seriously manic, if I were seriously manic, I'd say, take an elephant gun, put an elephant tranquilizer in there, and zip it right in me. Knock me out. I'll worry about the long-term diabetes effects or whatever later. We got to handle the crisis right now. So I'm all for erring on the side of over-medicating at that stage. That's a crisis phase. That's totally different than what I call the recovery phase.
Totally, yes.
And this is where we need a different meds strategy.
Right.
Maybe you can speak to that.
Well, for me, I know I can't give you guys wonderful news on that. I've taken medication now 20 years, and I've taken the same dose, I don't know, probably 10 years now, a lower dose. I'm still going to have my highs and lows. They're just not drastic. So I've reached that point where the meds are keeping me stable. I don't love them. It's not going to fix it. I wish I could tell you that the medication is it's like a happy pill and you're going to feel great. But that's where all your coping skills that you're going to learn over time is going to come into play.
That's where it comes in.
The meds will keep you here, but you have to have friends and family and support and therapists and coping skills.
And things in your life to make it meaningful.
Yes, all of these things, music, all of that, all the components to survive.
Right.
So if you just think
meds are just one
meds
piece of the puzzle.
are going to solve it, it's not. It's just one, like John said, one small piece.
And that's what I learned going to a support group. You don't have to be in a support group forever, but I would encourage anybody out there to attend at least 3, because one, you will meet people who've walked in your shoes, and they will all emphasize too. The meds are one piece of the puzzle. All this other coping stuff, I would say when you're deep into the recovery phase, the meds hardly matter to you. They're kind of running in the background.
Right.
We have to be cognizant, but I have to be more cognizant of, have I had a walk today? When I drive home from Maggie's wonderful shack here, am I going to be tired and worn out? Am I going to be able to run an errand or not? So these coping skills in the recovery phase to me are way more important than the meds. And if I screw up in the coping stuff, the effect is going to be much greater on me than if I missed the meds dose. This may not be the same for you out there right now, but these are the things we got to worry about.
For sure, and both of us have dealt with it long enough that we know.
Now, your doctors ever over-medicated you? I know when you're in crisis, over-medication can be okay.
Twice, and those were both during my episodes.
Right.
And I mean, I had horrible reactions from Haldol.
And that's an old-fashioned antipsychotic.
Yeah,
drug.
I don't even know if they give Haldol out anymore, but
they probably do because it's cheap.
Yeah, it was awful. My eyes were stuck in my head, and you get bad reactions. I've had lithium so bad where you have projectile vomiting, and they thought, well, let's just keep giving her more.
Oh, that's what I hate about doctors.
Yes,
you complain about the med. And they say, well, we'll up your dose.
So here I was vomiting 6 times a day, which Matt was there. So I'm not making this up, It's 6 times a day I'm vomiting, and it was on lithium. And then they go, oh, we'll put her on Lithobed. She'll do better on Lithobed. And you're thirsty, and I mean, it was like from one nightmare to the next.
But for some people, I know lithium is the magic med.
Exactly. Just sometimes it's not. Like Abilify, again, works for some people, but for me, it felt like my insides were just itching, scratching, from the insides out, and my leg did a vibrating tick that would stop. So, but other people don't even have that. So it's person by person, and I can't tell you what the magic combo is. Some people have to have a cocktail of meds.
Yeah, some people need cocktails. Fortunately, I avoided all of that. I lucked out because I really would have hate to see how I'd be if I'd been over-medicated.
It's an awful experience.
And I'm not a doctor, but any advice is okay, at the crisis phase, the meds are this important. They're going to take over the heavy lifting. As we learn more, as we get stable and we can look ahead to recovery. See, the doctors tend to look behind. They don't want us back in the hospital anymore because they've seen us at our worst there. So they're justifying the high doses as to not getting there. But high doses are going to obstruct us in our recovery unless these high doses are miracle doses for us.
Yeah.
But they've usually got the single purpose of getting us out of the crisis and instability. But then, when we've reached that threshold, we've got to learn more. Our recovery skills come into this. So we learn things like mindfulness, or we learn how to regulate our sleep. We learn how to take walks and get out in nature, and whatever works for you. So then our recovery tools go up, and our meds should be going down to more manageable levels. And as I say, I'm not a doctor, but please, when you're looking at your long-term recovery prospects, raise the possibility of lower doses with your drugs. If your doctor's prescribing a new drug to you, make that doctor justify why they're prescribing the drugs. What are the studies that have been done? Make them pull out the studies, because a lot of the studies are based on the crisis phase.
Right. Yeah, you really do have to be your own doctor.
You got to be your own doctor and advocate.
And advocate, and you have to talk with them. You got to take notes, because otherwise you're not going to get better. It's just like you're stuck. And
when we're in this crisis phase, we don't have our wits about us. We have to rely on our doctors, and they do their job at this stage.
Right. But later,
it gets problematic at this stage because they've got different goals. They don't want us to go backwards, and we want to go forwards. Does that sync with where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that for a while?
Well, it's just I was just losing where you were going with that. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at meds. How to use them in our recovery phase.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So for me, it's been awesome lately because I don't have to take the massive amounts of meds anymore, and I take a lower dose, and so that is really nice. And if I do miss a day or two, I don't see drastic things anymore either. So it's been nice to not have so much medication where it has a kind of gives you that dead feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Now I feel more alive and my personality's still there. And yes, I get a little irritated and stuff, but I've got so many different coping
Our
strategies.
doctors often mistake that dead feeling for normal.
Yeah, which
And
I can't go there.
so-
And if you're bipolar, I know you don't want to go there either because
Right.
it's so bland and boring, and
Yeah,
I'd
and-
rather be a
and
little
we
here.
We talked about normal in another video, and so understand where your true normal is, because it's not the same as your doctor's version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to be here.
We don't want to be like our doctors. They do their fine job,
Yeah.
but they have their own perception of what normal is, and our normal tends to be, a more inspirational version and also a more frightening version. We have to learn to live in this world, but we don't want to have our personalities changed.
That's so true. And
Yeah.
and I just can't go there. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know you.
And I'm prepared to accept the higher risks of flipping out or shutting down. In fact, I will get more manic than I like to at times, and I will get more depressed than I like to at times. But that's life. Normal people have to experience that too, and we just have to learn our way around. But having a little med to take the edge off, I think that works for most people, and I advocate that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we're going to share our books with you real quick that we've written. Mine's called Runaway Mind, My Race with Bipolar, and it's just about my own experiences, and this is John's.
Not just up and down, it gives you the basics on mood, and there'll be some more books in the Bipolar Expert series coming out soon.
Awesome. And check our website and our YouTube.
Subscribe to YouTube,
Yes,
and
there
check
you go.
out our email list.
Yes.
Okay?
So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. All right. High five. And we're done, so. Oh, wait, I was just losing where you going with that. Sorry.